Okay, so we're working on page 6. You're going to need these 2 packets. In this packet on the left, you're going to need to flip to the first page of this one. It's the one that only has this one left on the bottom, identifying minerals, and cut out identifying minerals. So it's the first one you're going to need. And then in this one, it should be the one that's second left, how to identify a mineral. And you're going to get that one cut out. And get those trimmed up, ready to go in your notebook. When you get those done, unpause and come back, and we're going to start on page 6. You'll need a highlighter, something to underline with, pen or pencil. And we're going to start with this one. Okay, so identifying minerals. So this is what we're going to be doing as we remember in our gizmo. So in order to identify minerals, we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to look at their color. So that's what we can see with our human eyeballs. Just like, what color is it? The next one is luster. So we're going to look at what the way a mineral reflects or absorbs light as it or at its surface. So that has to do with what it's made of. The streak, the color of mineral in a powder form. So it makes a chalk-like mark on porcelain. So we'll talk about that in more detail when we get to the page about the streak, and I'll demonstrate it for you as well. We're also going to look at the mineral's hardness, or its resistance of a mineral to being scratched. It's on a scale from 1 to 10. Talc is the softest, and the hardest is diamond. And then we're going to look at how it breaks, either the cleavage or the fracture. So cleavage is when it breaks with a smooth, flat surface, so like on a plane or a line. And fracture is a mineral breaks in uneven forms or irregularly. We're also going to calculate the density. So it's equal to its mass. Density is equal to mass divided by volume. So you can usually test how heavy they feel. So if we have like 2 and they're about the same size and one feels really light and one feels really heavy, we could say that one is more dense. And so to do that hardness, we're going to again use the Mohs hardness scale on a rank of 1 to 10. So that's just about that one. So these are the 6 ways that we're going to use identify minerals. So what 6 characteristics do we use to identify minerals? Write them down. Tell me. Get that glued in up at the top of this page. And next we're going to be doing the reading. How to identify a mineral. So you're going to want a yellow highlighter, something to exclaim, question, and star. And you're also going to want a green highlighter. So again, our power are key terms in yellow and key phrases and definitions in green. So minerals, minerals are often identified in a variety of ways. In fact, there are 8 ways to describe a mineral's luster. So we remember that 8 ways to describe a mineral's luster. And an entire scale to determine hardness, a scale to determine hardness. Streak tests, methods to determine density, and ways to identify materials based on the way in which the mineral fractures. One of the first ways to identify a mineral is to determine its luster. So that's a key word. Luster. And our definition for luster is the way in which the light reflects off a mineral's surface. Using luster can help observers figure out if the rock is porous, translucent, opaque, reflective, rough, and more. So these are all ways that we can describe luster. You'll notice on our gizmo that they use different terms. There's lots of different ways. After deciding on a mineral's luster, the observer can use the Mohs hardness scale Mohs scale, to decide on the hardness of the sample. The Mohs scale measures the hardness, so that's a Mohs scale and hardness of a mineral. The harder it is, the more difficult it will be to scratch. The best way to test hardness is to use another mineral with a known hardness level to attempt to scratch it. The most commonly used substance is glass, which has a hardness of 5.5 out of a scale of 10. So it's right around the middle. Next one is a streak test. A streak test is also a method of identifying minerals. A mineral is struck against a plate to see what type of mark it'll leave. Streak tests determine the color of the mineral's powder, which is not always identical to the color of the mineral itself. So we have some minerals that might look black, but they'll leave a red mark. Or they might look white and they'll leave a green mark. A streak test can identify the type of mineral using the residue, so that's what's left behind after the mineral is scraped across what is known as a streak plate. Often a white or black small plate that can best show the color of powder or streak left behind by the mineral. So I have both of those and we will do those tests as well. Then for further information, a mineral's density can be determined. To find a mineral's density, so we've got density. The formula is density equals mass divided by volume. So I want you to write that next to there. Density equals mass divided by volume. You can also use water displacement and a triple beam balance to measure those. So we'll see those on our gizmo. Finally, if you need a bit more information about the mineral, using cleavage and fracture is also a great way to identify minerals. So we talked about that cleavage and fracture being how the mineral breaks apart. You are not going to be breaking apart any of my minerals. I will maybe break a couple of them if we really can't tell, but we will not be breaking them. Okay, a fracture is a crack or a split in the mineral, and the minerals have cleavage planes where the rock tends to split. The different types of fractures can aid in the process of classifying a mineral. So remember, cleavage is that clean breaks, and fractures are more irregular. So once you've gotten this done and you have at least one of each of these, you can flip over to the back for questions. So fold that in half, hamburger style. And I'm going to again get you started with sentence starters and tell you which paragraph each of these answers can be found in. Okay, name at least 3 distinctive ways in which a mineral can be identified. So technically we summarized that in paragraph 1, but you can find it in all of the paragraphs. So we're going to write 1 to all. So you can list that as 1, 2, 3, or you can write it in a sentence. What is a streak test? How can it use to be identify minerals? So this is a 2-sentence answer. So we talked about streak tests in the 3rd paragraph. So your first sentence would start with, a streak test is, finish that sentence explaining it. A streak test, remember you can pause in between to answer those questions. Test can be used to identify minerals by. And if I'm ever talking too fast, you can also slow down the YouTube video. So that shouldn't be a period. You need to finish that sentence. And the final question, what is the equation to determine density? Oh my gosh, we wrote that down in paragraph 3. We wrote it down next to it, so you should write it there. It's going to be some letter equals something divided by something. How can density of minerals be measured? So density can be measured by okie doke. So when you're done, get that glued in below that. So this is how your page 6 should look. Make sure that you take a picture like this and like this so that I can see you did your notes as well. And that is page 6, ladies and gentlemen.